Relieve, Respond, Revive. WSFL-TV presents The Rebound, South Florida.
My biggest concern is just the sake of my kids. I don't want to put them in yet another confusing situation.
The largest school district in Florida is gearing up to reopen its schools. But is it really safe for students to go back? The preparations underway in Miami-Dade to make sure your child is protected. COVID-19 has kept Florida's governor busy for the past 6 months. As the state continues to rebound from the pandemic, we take a closer look at who he's meeting with and how often.
Because the census is much more important than a lot of people give it credit for.
If you haven't filled out your census, there's still time. The deadline has been extended. How your participation could affect upcoming elections. The Rebound South Florida starts right now.
Tonight, newly obtained school logs reveal the complexities and challenges of tracking the coronavirus on school campuses. These school district spreadsheets expose the realities of what schools are dealing with on a daily basis while trying to educate students in the classroom during a pandemic.
It's challenging.
We had no idea what to expect.
The reports provided to us by 4 school districts through a public records request are daily logs submitted to Florida's Department of Education, detailing confirmed cases of COVID-19 on campus and its impact.
Every day is a challenge.
In Okeechobee County, the district's population is small, just 6,400 across 10 schools. But daily COVID logs to the State Department of Education show small isn't immune to virus challenges. Take the teachers who test, but don't tell until days later when the results are positive.
If there's any kind of miscommunication, then that just kind of could hamper what we're trying to do.
Or the positive student whose doctor, according to school logs, never told his parents to keep him home or even contact the school. That one student forced 30 to be quarantined.
We literally go through each class period. We go through bus rosters. We just try to make sure we're not overdoing it, but we don't want to underdo it either and then lead to more sweeping.
Daily temperature checks, constant monitoring, and seating charts have helped overall numbers stay low in the district.
We don't want to have one person be responsible for sending home 100 students or staff or anything like that. So that's what we're trying to avoid.
Which is exactly what happened within the first week of school in St. Lucie County. Football teams at 2 schools impacted.
All of those players were quarantined for 14 days, and many of the coaches as well. There were no additional positive cases from either one of those.
In Pinellas County, one student case also impacted the school's football team. 41 students quarantined. In Polk County, a teacher's case forced more than 120 to be quarantined. As school district leaders, their biggest challenge:
just to make sure that we're getting it right.
Less than half of St. Lucie's district student population is back on campus. As of last week, it reported 35 positive student cases, with 480 total students quarantined since day one. That is what they know about. Like any district, if the coronavirus has taught nothing else on campus, it's that trust is everything.
I have to protect, and each one of us have to protect our children and our staff members. And so we have to be very, very honest, very trusting, and very, and tell it like it is.
Katie Legrone, WSFL TV.
Students here in South Florida will return to the classroom earlier than expected. Both Broward and Miami-Dade school boards held emergency meetings this week to vote on when in-person learning will begin. After a long school board meeting, Miami-Dade County Schools will open campuses this Monday, October 5th. The board voted on staggered reopening. Students in pre-K, kindergarten, first grade, and students with disabilities will return first. On October 7th, other elementary school students, plus students grades 6th, 9th, and 10th will be back on campus, and all other students will be allowed to return on Friday. The meeting came after the Florida Education Commissioner called on the district to reopen by October 5th.
I just don't think there's a way they're going to figure out the logistics clearly in that time.
Lauren is a mother of 2. Her daughter's in elementary school and her son is in middle school.
My biggest concern is just the sake of my kids. I don't want to put them in yet another confusing situation. I think that they just got the hang of virtual learning, how it's working, and to send them back to school when I feel like there's no clear-cut explanation of how it's going to work is just going to confuse them even more.
Along with parents, teachers expressed their concerns at the board meeting Tuesday. Parents who opted for the schoolhouse model in July will begin to return to campus on Monday. Students whose parents selected the My School online will remain engaged in distance learning. If parents want to change their decisions, the district says they can discuss options with their schools.
Among my friends, I think we're all kind of on the same page. It's just very confusing. And for those who have the opportunity to still keep their kids at home, everyone I know who has that option is taking it.
Dade released a video demonstrating the procedures and readiness of school sites.
We have made significant enhancements to promote social distancing and developed additional sanitization protocols to maintain clean and healthy environments in all of our schools.
You can find everything you need to know about kids going back to the classroom on our website, WSFLTV.com.
The pandemic is impacting the way many people observe their faith, how technology could play an even greater role in religion in the future. Plus, as Florida rebounds from the pandemic, many are wondering, what is the governor really doing to fix things? We take a closer look at how he's been spending the past 6 months.
I'm Forrest Saunders at the Capitol, holding roundtables, weekly press conferences, and speaking with a whole lot of officials. The pandemic has certainly kept Governor Ron DeSantis busy, but we wanted to know who he's talking with and how often. So we checked out his daily schedules.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Almost every day, state officials publish Governor Ron DeSantis' schedule. They pop into inboxes of email accounts across the state. We went through all of them since the governor declared COVID-19 a public health emergency March 1. Now, as a caveat, we're not counting any press conferences that DeSantis might have had with these officials, just face-to-face meetings as well as phone calls. He may have spoken to them outside of what's on the schedule, but without a record, we can't count it. One big standout, the number of press conferences DeSantis has done, at least 140 around the state. Many of them roundtables with experts supporting his COVID actions, but they're not ideal for journalists.
They only allow for a certain amount of time for question and response. There are multiple journalists trying to ask questions, talking over each other, so they're a bit chaotic at times. They're not the opportune format for really digging down.
South Florida political communications expert Josh Scacco says politicians use news briefings like the governor's to control the message.
They can use these press conference formats to be able to telegraph an image of quote unquote accessibility without the corresponding potential of accountability and depth.
Scacco says one-on-ones are a much better way to get that accountability. The governor's done quite a few, 32 nationally by our count, but most are with one outlet, Fox News, and conservative hosts like Sean Hannity. Local press only getting 11 exclusive interviews, most focused on hurricanes. Speaking of storms, the agency head DeSantis spoke with most often, Emergency Management Director Jared Moskowitz, showing up 88 times on the schedule. Surgeon General Scott Rivkees is next, dialing in or meeting DeSantis 69 times. Medicaid Chief Mary Mayhew 26 times, and John Satter, who's been handling unemployment, 21 times.
You do have a demand there.
That's nearly as many meetings or calls DeSantis has had with President Donald Trump, the fellow Republican showing up 19 times on the governor's schedule, more than Secretary of State Laura Lee at 14, and more than twice as often as Education Commissioner Richard Corcoran. DeSantis has met with a slew of other officials too, including politicians, corporate leaders, and more. He also often clocks hours on the weekend. His schedule is making at least one thing very clear: the pandemic has kept him busy. At the Capitol, Forrest Saunders, WSFL TV.
If you haven't filled out your census yet, there's still time. The census deadline is now extended through the end of October, and the League of Women Voters tells us how this will affect the upcoming elections.
The league could not be more excited because the census is much more important than a lot of people give it credit for.
The new census deadline is October 31st, and according to Monica Sukoko Rodriguez, the president of the League of Women Voters in Miami-Dade County, the ruling is in regard to a shifting deadline prompted by the coronavirus. So how does this affect the election?
The census deals with apportionment, or how many representatives in government you will get. So if there are more people, which there likely are, or we know there are, they will be apportioned differently, your representatives, and your districts will be drawn differently to really focus those areas of need.
Along with determining the seats in the House of Representatives and in various state legislatures, the data is used to determine the distribution of the billions of dollars for federally funded programs.
I was actually kind of disappointed when I completed my census. It's so short. It is so easy to do. It won't even take 5 minutes of your time and will really help to shape and improve your community.
In Broward, Andrea Sleeper, the voter education event coordinator of the organization, says while the census is extremely important, they've been attending food distributions to remind South Floridians to register to vote.
I thought it would be a wonderful way to hand out our voter education materials since we are no longer holding any in-person events because of the COVID-19 virus. So we go, I have examples here. We have voting information here. We have it in English. We have it in Spanish.
Andrea says they hand out information to at least 300 people a day.
A lot of people said, thank God you are here. We didn't know where to get this information from. And especially the Hispanic community, they are so happy to see that we do have Spanish information in their language. And I get a big thumbs up.
Here's the Rebound rundown with some important dates to remember. The last day to fill out your census is October 31st. The last day to register to vote is October 5th. If you're mailing in your ballot, the league recommends you send it in by October 19th, since the deadline is October 24th. You can find all of these dates, along with the links to fill out your census and register to vote, on our website, WSFLTV.com. Just click Vote 2020.
As part of our commitment to helping South Florida rebound, we want to help you get back to work. A Miami staple is hiring. We'll tell you how many employees they hope to add to their staff and what they're looking for.
You know, I met her maybe like 4 years ago, and she just loves this community.
In honor of Hispanic Heritage Month, we're highlighting members of the community who are impacting lives in South Florida, how one local woman is helping business owners get back on their feet. Getting through this with stories to help get back on track as we rebound in South Florida.
It's been over 6 months since the pandemic hit, and we know many of you have lost your jobs. To help, we're highlighting companies every week that are hiring. This week, we're telling you about Monty's, a Miami staple. They're hiring employees, and they're telling us what they're looking for and how they're keeping everyone safe.
We're hiring for servers, bartender, hostesses, busboys.
We have a doctor that keeps up with us like every day, even days on our days off. They're checking they're always checking if we're okay, if we're feeling any symptoms.
Juan says along with the socially distant tables, every worker is required to wear a mask and a face shield to make sure customers and employees are safe. If you're interested in applying, you can find all that information on our website, WSFLTV.com. In honor of Hispanic Heritage Month, we're highlighting Latinos in our community who are impacting the lives of South Floridians and helping them rebound. Tonight, we're featuring someone who's been helping business owners in Allapattah get back on their feet.
What you put into this is exactly what you're going to get out of it. Yeah. So make sure you're on the ball.
Meet Malaika Burjos Flores. She's been helping business owners in Allapattah for years.
I fell in love with Allapattah. I fell in love with the Dominican community here with Little Santo Domingo. I started volunteering with the Dominican American National Foundation. I worked a lot with them. And ever since, I've been part of this community helping.
Malaika and her family moved to the U.S. when she was 5 years old. After living in several different states, she came to South Florida to study at the University of Miami. A couple months into college, she started to feel homesick. That's when she was introduced to the neighborhood of Allapattah.
There were two Dominican ladies in the cafeteria, and I said to them, hey, I need to do my hair, and I need some Dominican food. So they brought me here, like literally across the street, they brought me to Guque Estilo, and I totally fell in love with this neighborhood. That was 1998.
Ever since, this part of South Florida has had a very special place in Malaika's heart. In 2019, she started the Allapattah Collaborative to provide business owners with the help they need.
It came out of a community engagement process. We worked with South Florida Community Development Coalition and the National Association of Latino Community Asset Builders, and we basically looked at the biggest issue that we have in Allapattah, which is gentrification. How people that have invested their sweat equity, their time, their years in building up their small businesses, in building up their homes, are not being swept out by, different type of investors.
I've been at situations where, my bank account was like nearly zero.
Julio Diaz owns 2 stores in the neighborhood. He says the organization helped him with business strategy, financial, and loan tips.
Malaika, especially her, she's been great. I mean, I met her maybe like 4 years ago, and she just loves this community. And, she's always like pitched her ideas to me and what she wants for us. And now during the pandemic, it became concrete because I needed help, and they got the help that I needed.
Malaika says she's helped over 50 businesses in the area.
I'm sure we're going to see some dramatic transformations in the future.
Next on the Rebound South Florida, changing worship services. The pandemic is impacting the way many people observe their faith. How technology could play an ever greater role in religion in the future.
Easter, Holy, Passover, Ramadan, just a few of the religious milestones that used virtual tools to replace traditional observation during the pandemic. But what about robots, artificial intelligence, and online houses of worship? We take a look at how technology is intersecting with spirituality. Ready or not, the intersection of machines and religion is already happening in real life. In Japan, monks at an ancient temple hear sermons from a robot avatar of the Buddhist goddess of mercy. In India, an automaton performs one of Hinduism's most sacred rituals. And in Germany, a robot gives blessings to thousands of Protestants.
You could punch in the language, for example, in which you would request a blessing.
Some are now asking whether the next step is an artificially intelligent spiritual leader, and whether counsel from AI could ever replace the guidance of a human cleric.
I think that's a really important question that we need to wrestle with, just as we're also wrestling with, the hypothetical possibility of encountering intelligent life from other planets.
But what about right now? The pandemic has forced millions around the world out of their churches, temples, synagogues, and mosques into virtual congregations.
We've been recording our sermons, we've been posting them online, Facebook and YouTube and Instagram. A lot of other Islamic centers are doing the same, trying to keep the community engaged digitally.
Teresa Berger, a professor of Catholic theology at the Yale University Divinity School, argues that whether virtually or in person, the physicality of being present remains. And rather than being disembodied, the technology actually allows more connectivity in some cases, such as using the chat feature.
In this particular digitally mediated community, people talked to each other throughout the service much more than we might do in a brick-and-mortar sanctuary.
In recent years, Facebook CEO Mark Zuckerberg has suggested the social network could address declining church attendance, offering the same sense of community traditionally found in brick-and-mortar houses of worship.
Is this about creating profit for Facebook, or is this about truly ministering to the spiritual needs of people? Trying to keep those things separate would be very difficult.
Just how exactly technology will alter manners of worship, say experts, will undoubtedly continue to evolve.
I'm sure we're going to see some dramatic transformations in the future.
I'm Usher Qureshi.
We love this part of the Rebound. Each week, we reach out to you to hear what you love about the community you live in. Tonight, we leave you with Cara Beth Yaquinta and Pembroke Pines.
From the Northeast. I'm from Pennsylvania. I moved down here for college. Like, a lot of these communities have paved sidewalks, and they have the man-made lakes, and they have just like all the trees and stuff, and that's what I really like. I'm really big on supporting local business, especially now when they really need it. I really like to go and try the new places. Like, lately I've tried a few new spots. In terms of accessibility, like, I can go to Davie quick and I can go try a place there. I can go to Miami quick and try a place there. I really like the area though, is because I don't have to go in somewhere and question something. I can go in knowing that I feel safe, I feel secure, and that I'm not gonna run into a problem.